All right, hi everybody. This is Hannah Zarzer, and I'm going to talk to you today about how to use Doctopus and Goobric in your classrooms. So I'm going to have it on screen share, as you can see. So this is exactly what I see on my computer is what you're seeing on your screen. And what Doctopus and Goobric do is they actually give us a way to give out and grade assignments completely online and completely individualized for students. So just as we would give students handouts that would say, complete this assignment, turn it in by this day, and so on paper, we would photocopy one for each student. Doctopus is going to do that same thing, but just on the computer and through Google Drive. And so the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your students have a Google Drive account set up. So that just means that they need a Gmail account. If your students do not have a Gmail account, that needs to be the first step. My school uses Google Apps for Education, so they'll actually have a Google login through that. So if your school has that, you might already have access to that. If not, you want to go ahead and have your students sign up for one. It's free, it's simple, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then to get Doctopus actually going, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your drive and you're going to hit this create button. And you want to make sure that you create a spreadsheet. And what you're actually doing when you create the spreadsheet is you're creating a roster and you're creating a place for your students to actually turn in their work. And when I say that, it sounds a little bit confusing, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to title this AETC Conference Roster Doctopus Assignment. And so this way I will know exactly what's going on in the spreadsheet. That's something that you want to call this the assignment. I'm just going to call it the roster as well, so I know exactly what it is, because I'm actually going to have people at this conference do an assignment, so I don't want to get that confused. This is for the video. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by going to add-ons, and this is new to the Google toolbar, and it's really useful. And I already have Doctopus installed onto my computer, but you're going to go ahead and click Get Add-ons. And when you open it up here, you're going to see a lot of different ones that you can choose from, and a lot of these are really awesome. I highly recommend looking into a lot of them. Flubru is really great. And you'll see Doctopus is down here, but if you just want to search for it, you can. And when it opens up, it's going to look like this. You can click on it. It will tell you a little bit more about it. Here's the overview. Here's any information. And your button right here will either say to add to toolbar or something like that. You're going to click that button and make sure that you go ahead and authorize Doctopus to work on your spreadsheet. And once you get that done, Doctopus will now be right here under your add-ons bar. And so you're just going to go ahead and click launch. And you'll see down here it will tell you that it's working, so that you don't have to have any confusion of whether or not it actually is working, because it's not going to be showing up here. It's not going to look like your computer's thinking, but the add-on is working. And so you'll see that there's a box that pops over here and it says Doctopus, and now we're at step 1. And so we're going to select a roster, and I have a whole lot of rosters in here just from practicing using this new Doctopus, but we're going to go ahead and click Build a New Roster. And so you would do this either for each of the classes that you teach, each of the periods that you teach, however you want to separate it. I kind of prefer to separate it just by my class periods, because a lot of days we're on different schedules. So I want to make sure that I have everybody that has the information they need on the day that they need it. But you can do it however you prefer. And then this method that we're going to choose is on this sheet, and that just means that actually in this space, Doctopus is going to create your roster. And it's also, you can choose import from G-Class folders, and I do use G-Class folders in my classroom. I absolutely love it. What it is it just creates individual folders for each one of your students and shares it with them, so all of their assignments appear in that folder. And then you can import from your teacher dashboard, and that's if you're using Hapara or Google Classroom. So we're just going to go on this sheet for right now, and we're going to click Create Roster. And then you will see that Doctopus will populate the first three columns, with some information that it's going to ask you to fill out. So it says go ahead, enter your class roster in the sheet, and refresh. We recommend keeping to a single class section and fewer than 40 students. And the reason that they're going to ask you to do that is because Doctopus will time out after a little while, so you want to make sure that you kind of keep it to a small amount. So I would do those by periods if possible. So example is ELA period 1. And so you could have your students come through, put their first name, put their last name, and put their email, or you could create a form for them to fill out so that they actually put that information in and you can just copy and paste it from another spreadsheet. So what you're going to do that is you're going to go to create form, and once you create the form, you can choose whatever theme you want, and I'm just going to click OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and title this AETC form. And I'm going to uncheck this right here. This is going to require Hoover City Schools login to view this form. I do work at Hoover City, so this is automatic using our Google Apps for Education. I'm just going to uncheck that so that that's not required, especially if you have students that do not use that particular email address or particular login. You want to make sure that that's not checked so they do have access. So your first question, we're just going to put first name. And then you want to make sure that you put it into a text question, and this is just going to let students actually answer on the document. And then you're going to put it as a required question, and this is just going to make sure that students don't skip over this. They don't pretend it's not there. You know, they say, my teacher knows my first name, I don't need to put that. But Doctopus is going to require that you have all parts filled out, so you want to make sure that each of the students goes through and does this. And then I'm going to click this button right here, and it's just going to duplicate. And then all I'm going to do for this one is change first to last. And so I'm going to click done there. And students, so you're going to have your first name and your last name, and you're going to add one more item, and that's going to be email. And for the help text, I always put associated with Google Drive so that my students are well aware that this is the email address that they are using to log into their Google Drive account. This is going to make it so that when you create this template for the student, it does show up in their Shared With Me folder. If they do not put the email address that's associated with Google Drive, they will not get that document. So you're just going to put a required question again. And then if you have students that have IEPs that you very often give separate assignments to, if you have project groups, you want to go ahead and create a question for that. So you might have project group number, and then they can fill that out with their project group that they're used to, or you can put the question that's going to say flag, and it's either going to be A or B. A lot of times I do this on my own so that my students can, they don't know who's different and who's not, and you'll understand what I mean by this in just a minute, but you do know that this needs to be on this document if you want to include it. And so then we're going to go down, and we're going to make sure that we hit done. I don't need this, so I'm going to trash it. So we have our 3 things. You can make sure that I like to keep the show link to submit another response every time so that, you know, if kids don't have access to a device or anything like that, they can go ahead and use this. And then I'm going to click View Live Form. And so this is actually what your kids will see. You can either do this by sending the form, and this will give you the link, or you can put this link into a QR code, or you can put it into something like Bitly that will make it a smaller URL so that your students can type that in. And so your students will fill this out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill it out twice so that we can see what it looks like with a couple of students having filled it out. And so that's my first time. Then I'm going to submit another response, and I'm going to put the same thing. I'm just going to put a different email address, gmail.com. Alright, so I'm just going to exit out of that because that's all we're going to do for that. Oh, and then when you come down into your Google Drive, you will see here's the form that we created, and here are the responses. And so what you're going to do is you're going to open these responses, and it's in a spreadsheet form. And so just like how this is going to ask for first name, last name, email, I'm just going to copy and paste where it says first name, last name, email. So I'm just going to copy the first name into the first name section. And so you'll see they'll stay right on top of each other just like they're supposed to. Then I'm going to copy the last name, and you can do as many of these as you need to. So if you do have 40 students in one class period, you can copy and paste 40 of them if you need to. And then I'm going to copy and paste the email addresses. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and click refresh, and this way it will be saved into your drive. And then I'm going to name the roster. So I'm just going to name this one ATC video roster. And then I'm going to click Save Roster and Continue. And so what you might want to name your roster is the class you teach and the period. So I might call mine English 11 4th period because that is a class that I will teach next year. And so then you're going to choose your copy or how you want to copy and distribute the files. And so just like how I told you that you might need another section here, that's only if you choose a certain type of distributing. So if you're going to do individual all the same, this means that each student gets a separate document that they write on. And so that means that both of these students would have a different document. So just like you were photocopying and giving everyone the exact same sheet, that's what individual all the same is going to do. If you do individual differentiated, what that is going to do is that's actually going to take, if you have a flag section that we talked about, whether that's A or B, that's going to have the students that have an A flag send one document and a B flag send a different document. And so that's really great. So if you have students that are ELL students, IEP students, 504 students, gifted students, any student that needs something just a little bit different than what everybody else gets, this is an easy way to do it without having to run Doctopus twice and without having to have any other students know that it's different. Then you can do project groups. Again, creates one shared copy of a doc for each project group as designated in the group column on your roster. So you'd have to have that group section, and you would have to acknowledge that certain students were in certain groups. And then you're going to have a whole class. So it's going to create a single shared document for your entire class. And all of these are extremely helpful at different times. Individual all the same is probably what the majority of us will use. So I'm going to go ahead and click that one. And I'm going to let it load. And then you'll see there's an exclude button that's appeared. And all this means is that if I really don't want this student to get this assignment, I'm just going to exclude them. And so it's just like in, I know we use STI and iNow, so if you use that, just like if you're going to exempt a student from an assignment, this is the same thing. So you've already decided the document sharing arrangement. Now you're going to choose the access level. And this just means how other students can or cannot see other students' work. So generally I like to leave this on either no access or allow comment only. And the reason I like to do a comment only is what that's going to do is actually give students the opportunity to respond to each other's work without changing the work. And that's what edit is going to do. You can go back and see what students have and haven't done, and you can restore documents. So I don't want you to be worried about, a student going in and erasing everybody else's work. But I generally like to use comment. You can view only so that they can just see each other's work, or you can allow no access so that the other ones don't even exist to the other students, which is what I generally do. Then we have assigned student access level. This is the actual student that you're sending the assignment to. So do you want them to be able to comment, to view, or to edit? And that just depends on the type of assignment that you're choosing. I'm going to leave it at edit. And I'm also going to leave that editors cannot change the sharing permissions. And what that means is that they cannot go in and decide that this person can see their work and this person can comment on their work and this other student can edit their work. It's just going to give the teacher a little bit more power in deciding who can and cannot see what. And then the next box is going to say that you have specific folders that you would like to send the assignments to, and that's only if you're going to use things like GCOS folders or Hapara or anything like that. Right now, let's just ignore that, pretend that doesn't exist, and leave it unchecked. The last section on step number 3 is going to be to add a co-teacher. Now, you should add a co-teacher if you have a co-teacher in your class. So I do teach 2 sections that have a co-teacher with me, and I like for her to have access to everything in that class. She's just like another teacher to me. So this will give the right to edit and access work for this assignment. This is also great if you have a teacher that, let's say that you're working with a history teacher on a PBL project. This is perfect because they're able to see the same information that you are, but you're also allowed to, you don't have to run something twice. You're allowed to mark on it, write on it, change anything. And so I'm going to leave a blank right now, but it's a great, great, great option. So I'm going to hit save and continue. And so now we're going to choose the assignment templates. The first thing that we actually have to do is choose the folder. So we're going to choose the choose folder button. And notice that it's in all caps, and that's really important because this has, you need to make sure that you're looking just for the folder name and not the file name. And so you also need to make sure that you click the checkmark button next to the assignment, and then you're going to click select. So I'm just going to randomly choose an assignment that I have in my drive that my students would complete. And so what Doctopus has just done is it's opened the synthesis essay folder, and it's given me all the file options that there are. So I'm going to choose something that's a document, and I'm actually going to choose the essay MLA template. And what I used for my class with this is I created this template, or I got this template from the Google Template Gallery actually, and I had them write their paper exactly as it was laid out on this template. And so you'll see in just a second that it actually has an MLA heading, a title, a header. It has everything that it needs to be a perfect MLA formatted paper. And so this way I didn't have to worry about my students not being sure about something or doing something incorrectly. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that this is what we want our folder to go to. So Doctopus has to create somewhere to put all these files in your drive. So your students aren't going to get everyone's, but you will. So it needs a place to put them all. And it's automatically going to go to your roster name and the assignment title. I'm going to go ahead and create new folder. If you have an existing folder that you do want to put it in, you can use that, but you don't have to. Then you can choose how you want your files to be named. So automatically it's going to go to last name, comma, first name, and then it's going to say exactly what it says up here. It's going to have your assignment title. And so I like to leave it just like this. I like it to say last name, first name, because I like it to be in that alphabetical order, but how you name it is up to you. It gives you plenty of different options. Just make sure that you copy and paste these instead of trying to retype them, because you do want to make sure that you get them exactly as they are, or else it will just show up as $ last name instead of Zarzer as the last name. And then you can choose to notify document editors immediately upon sharing and resharing. And so what that's going to mean is that your students will get an email that will say, hi, I've shared this folder with you. And you can include a note, but I usually don't do this unless I tell my students that I will email them when the document is in their shared with me folder. So for instance, if I'm not going to pass out an assignment until the very end of the day, if I didn't have time during class to run Doctopus or something like that, I might tell them that I'll go ahead and shoot them an email so that they're 100% positive when it's in their shared with me folder. Generally, I leave it just blank and not checked. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that and save and continue. Also because I don't need to send myself 2 emails. But like I said, it's totally up to you. If you want to send your students emails, you absolutely can. And so what this is going to do is to make sure that you go through, you look through it, this is exactly how you want it to be, and once you're 100% done, you can say run, copy, and share. And so you'll see it says Doctopus is working, and please not to alter the roster sheet. So even if you notice, oh no, I messed up that person's email. Well, it's a little late. You can run it again, but right now you have to leave it alone so that Doctopus can kind of work its magic. And so you'll see over here it's populating some of the different cells, and in just a minute it will actually fill these out for you. And so it's going to create a file name, which will be that last name, comma, first name. It will create a file key, which you don't need to worry about, and it will create a link to this student's document that they are working on in their assignment. It will also tell you the last time it was edited. So Doctopus should be about done. Okay, so it was shared successfully. So now you can see that if you want to go through and look at this person's assignment, all you have to do is open it right here. And again, this is the template that I used. It was really helpful. My students did a great job with it, and it was really easy for them. And so if you want to click continue right here, I will show you what this looks like. I'm going to hope that this doesn't log me out, but I am going to add another account just so you can see what this would look like from a student's point of view. Alright, so let's just say that this was one of your students' Google Drives, and you had said, go in, make sure that you look in your shared with me folder, and here you go. Right here is their assignment. You can open it, they can open it, they can type directly on it. So if I just, I want to type I'm going to go ahead and dismiss that. I want to type my title, say TC again, and they fill it out how they want to. I'm going to go ahead and delete this little guy. I'm going to reinstate him just a second. But okay, so that's what it would do. So now when you actually go back to here, that was this one right here, that was the second one. If I want to look at that one, I can open it, and you'll actually be able to see the changes that I've made. And so I can constantly come in and check on how my students are doing throughout the assignment. I can read and make comments, even if they haven't turned anything into me. They actually will never have to turn something in. There's no button anywhere that says turn in. And so this will automatically just show up, and you'll be able, just like how you can collaboratively work on documents with anyone on Google, you can do the same thing with your students using Doctopus. And if you want to make them not be able to make any more revisions, you're going to click Embargo Docs for Grading. And so this is great because it's just like when you take that paper away from them in class and you say you cannot do any more work on it, this will do the same thing electronically. So it says that all their editing rights have been removed. So if you want to go through, you want to look at it, you want to grade it, you want to make comments, and then you want to give them the opportunity maybe to go back and fix the things that you have made comments on, then you can unembargo the docs for revision. And so this will give the students back their editing rights, which is really great because it actually gives them the opportunity to go back and fix their mistakes. And so it's just going to give them, again, it takes out that embargoed. If you want to transfer the ownership back to the students, you can. Send a feedback email, you can do that as well. Or you can refresh last edit time so you can see who is actually working and who isn't. All right, and the last thing that I'm going to show you is how to use Goobric. And Goobric is an extension that you're going to add onto Google Drive and onto your Google Chrome, excuse me. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually allow you to use spreadsheets as rubrics and attach them directly to assignments. So we're going to go ahead and click this Attach Goobric button. And it's going to explain a little bit about what it is, and it's going to tell you what you need to do to get ready for using Goobric. So first you're going to install the Goobric Chrome extension. So when you click this link, it's just going to take you to the Chrome web store, and you're going to click this free button, and it will go ahead and it will ask you, can you add this? And you're going to say yes, add, and it will add the little man up here. Now you can't see him right now because it's only visible when the extension can act on the current page, which means that it's only going to be visible when you've attached a Goobric to something or when you're on a Google spreadsheet or a Google Doc. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and X out. We're done with that. And then our step 2 is to authorize the Google web app. The app needs authorization. You're going to click continue, and you're going to accept. And once this is done, it will say, congrats, you've authorized it, and you can go ahead. Oh, okay, hold on one second. Let me log out. I will say this, that Goobric